There's definitely an issue with gatekeeping in Irish angling and Irish fishing. And whether people want to admit it or not, it is pushing away younger anglers. That is a fact. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good, because we need to talk about it. First and foremost, I think I must state that this isn't an attack on any certain individual. I'm actually just talking more about the culture of fishing in Ireland as a whole and what I've experienced fishing here in Ireland. Fishing is growing tremendously in Ireland, and especially amongst the youth generation or the younger generation, the next generation you might say. And it's definitely getting larger. In Dublin, canal fishing is getting huge. And even just on social media, I've seen my own following grow and grow. And a huge number of the people that are starting to follow me and interact with me and, you know, really just enjoy the content that I'm making and enjoy fishing are younger people. And I mean, seriously, like people below the ages of 18, people below the ages of 14. And there's a lot of young anglers looking to get involved in fishing in Ireland. There are initiatives happening in Ireland to get younger people involved in fishing. I'll give credit where credit is due. IFI have done quite a bit for youth angling in Ireland. There are youth outreach programs that they've run in the past. School programs have also been run in the past. They've even done some stuff with structured events and conservation messaging, so props to them for that. But it hasn't been a tremendous amount of help. And that's not IFI's fault, but initiatives just aren't enough if the culture and the community are already unwelcoming to begin with. But this goes beyond people, and it's actually a lot to do with how fishing in Ireland looks. When I look at any sort of club or club waters or anything to do with fishing from the previous generation of fishermen or fisherwomen, there's a lot of old school kind of stuff. So I'm talking about website, dated logos. There seems to be limited digital presence, especially amongst younger people within the club, and just no modern storytelling. And these are things that really are needed in order to get younger people on board. If I look at running clubs or hiking clubs or, you know, sea swimming in Ireland, these are all communities that have grown tremendously in the last few years. And it's been a lot to do with their social media presence. It's been a lot to do with how they approach the youth generation. Sea swimming exploded in Ireland because of how cultural it became, how important swimming in the ocean is for us as Irish people and as a culture. Our beautiful Ireland, there were adverts made about sea swimming. So when was the last time Irish fishing felt modern, felt cultural, felt a part of Ireland? There's a gap, unfortunately, between the previous generation and the new generation coming in. Younger anglers value content, they value TikTok, they value social media, and just identity-driven communities of people who know what they want, know who they are in and amongst fishing, and maybe have a narrative, have a message. And unfortunately, there is a contrast between traditional fishing and modern day fishing. That's not to take away from traditional fishing, by the way. That is the basis of everything we know and love. But fishing is evolving, whether you like it or not. It is changing, like with everything in the world. And things like static notice boards, word of mouth systems, and even just like minimal visual storytelling are not enticing to a younger generation. There's another generational gap that needs to be addressed, and this isn't actually about so much, you know, community and stuff like that. It's more to do with the knowledge gap. Traditional fishing and the older generation are incredibly knowledgeable. They have the knowledge, they have the skill, they've learned everything that they need to learn. However, unless this knowledge is passed down, ecosystems and conservation is at a serious threat. When younger anglers are not mentored properly, something serious can happen, and we get these knowledge gaps. Knowledge is super important when we talk about conservation. Things like fish handling, ecosystem quality, spawning awareness, and just overall water health. These are super important things, not to mention catch and release, just the ethics of it. And when an older generation sort of gatekeeps this knowledge and doesn't want to share the knowledge because of whatever reason, then you create this knowledge gap. And by creating a knowledge gap, you really do put into danger the future of Irish fishing and the future of conserving our ecosystems and conserving ultimately our fish. And to be honest with you, if we don't teach the younger anglers, then we cannot complain, because too often I see way too many people complaining about how younger anglers are taking care of fish, but no one's there to teach them. Nothing is being put in place to teach these young guys and these young girls on how to look after these fish and how how to get out and about and doing it? Who's teaching them about conservation? Who's teaching them about catch and release ethics? Who's teaching them how to handle fish properly? This brings through another conversation that needs to be had, and that is species snobbiness, I suppose you could call it. In the past, the belief that trout and salmon were above every other fish was very prevalent and very prominent, but that is not the case. Now, more and more young anglers are seeing sea bass, pike, and perch as great sport fish and fish that need to be conserved just as much. And I do believe that on the west coast and a lot of places on the west coast, culling of pike actually still takes place in order to protect our trout and salmonid species. Unfortunately, pike is actually in fact a native species to Ireland, despite what most people in those sort of areas believe. The culling of pike is wrong. I think the culling of any native species is wrong. People need to do their research before we go out there and talk about just completely destroying a species to protect another one when it's a very fragile ecosystem. Pike and perch are no longer considered coarse fish, really, maybe by legislation, but in terms of their identity, they're now sport fish more than anything else, which is huge. To the younger generation, they're cool, they're urban, they're exciting, they're a nice fish, they're a cool fish to go and target. So, I think that's something that I just wanted to talk about as well. There is a shift in culture happening amongst that. And to touch on that, recently, Wild Hunter were the first team in Ireland to enter fly versus jerk, which is tremendous news for them. This competition gives Ireland international recognition for the great fishing nation that it is. It also legitimizes predator fishing for us as an island. Ultimately, it shows that evolution of fishing is possible, and that's something that I think a lot of people get stuck in their ways thinking about, is that fishing is fishing and that's it, full stop. But it's a constantly changing thing, like with anything in life. Then there's an issue of access to fishing. For anyone who didn't know, I was born in Ireland but grew up overseas, and we moved back as a family to Ireland in 2020. When I first joined the Tulla Angling Club, I had no idea it was even a thing, and we'd been in the country for over a year. The only way I was introduced into that club was because I knew someone who knew someone who was in the club. So there was no advertising for that whatsoever. And that's the same for most clubs. I often see lots of signs when I'm out fishing saying Greg-Man Angling Club, or Slaney Angling Club, or any sort of angling club. But that's it. You Google them and it's an outdated website that has no contact details or an old landline number that doesn't even work anymore. So how do you join a club where it's almost impossible to get in contact with someone? Information is so hard to find, and it's really, really unclear who to contact. So that is absolutely something that has to change and has to modernize. And look, I get it. The clubs don't necessarily want every Tom, Dick, and Harry joining. These are protected waters. These are maybe quote unquote secret waters that we want to look after. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for secret spots. I understand that that is a part of fishing, simple as. But that being said, there is a huge difference between protecting waters and looking after them and just being straight up hostile, which is something I've dealt with a lot in the past. Obviously, as someone who goes out and films a lot of content on the riverbanks, hostility towards myself for filming has been huge. I can take it, thankfully, but there's a lot of people out there who might be completely thrown off by the fact that they want to go out and maybe film a video by the riverbank, which is totally legal, by the way, absolutely legal and can be done. You can do whatever you want, in terms of filming in public places. As long as it's within the law, there's no problem with it. Don't let people tell you that you can't go out and film. I understand secret spots, I understand protecting spots, but let's work as a community. Let's not work against each other and be hostile. Work together to protect our waters. Why has that never been even a piece in this chess game? There's never been this sort of community drive with fishing, and maybe that's because of fishing as an individual sort of sport. Seemingly there needs to be secret spots and protecting, what's best for me, essentially, not me, obviously not me myself, but what's best for an individual, protecting these sort of gem areas. But that being said, let's protect, you can't tell me nowadays that people won't just open up Google Maps and find secret spots anyways, because that's how people do it all the time. That's how I find my fishing spots. I don't ask anyone, but I go online, I look at this place of the water, can I fish there? Yeah. Am I allowed to fish there? Yeah. Go down, oh great fishing there. And then people are like, oh, how do you know about that? It's well, because I just walked down there and I found out that it was a good place to fish. It's not a secret anymore. So people are going to find these spots anyways, and because people are going to find these spots anyways, let's protect them. Let's work as a community to look after these waters, not push people away, because ultimately what you do is you create this sort of tension and this hostility, which is so unnecessary for the sport, especially in a small island like Ireland, where you can basically fish anywhere within like a 5-6 hour drive max. So yeah, that's my opinion on that as well. It's something that needs to be addressed, I think, and I think there will be a change with that, with the use of social media and community and people talking to one another. I think that's definitely going to make a change. And that brings me on to my next point, which is, where is the youth representation in Irish angling? How many clubs do you see actively promote young members? How many have a modern social media? How many are showcasing young anglers? And how many of them just feel welcoming overall? The youth generation, or the next generation that are going to be looking after Irish waters. But if clubs feel outdated, exclusive, and kind of static, no one's going to be willing to join. There's nothing exciting about that. And if they don't join then standards drop, culture falls off, and conservation takes a massive blow. Look, I'm not sitting here and trashing the older generation for fishing at all. That's not my intention, and I don't want to cause hostility. What I do want, though, is to make people aware that Irish fishing doesn't need saving. It just needs a revamp. There needs to be some change. I would personally like to see stronger initiatives being put in place for young anglers, bigger youth outreach done by IFI, maybe some modern branding by club members. If there's any club members out there watching, or any club leaders, what about a youthful approach? What about a social media approach, a different approach? A digital presence goes a huge way, and you'd be so surprised at how many young people are really interested in getting involved in angling. Younger anglers can seem impatient and naive, or even clueless and careless, but it is actually really quite the opposite. Younger anglers are passionate and curious and care a whole load, but they just need a little bit of guidance. And if we teach younger anglers now to care about fishing and ecosystems, we protect Irish angling for decades to come. And that is our goal as human beings, in my opinion, at the end of the day. Caring for our earth, caring for our next generation, and making sure that we put ourselves first in these situations. But that starts with us. That starts with the current generation. I want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on what I've had to say today. If anyone has anything to say at all, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I always am open to hearing about these sort of things. I just do think that it's important that, all the previous points that I mentioned are heard. That's just how I feel about them, and I think that it's important that I share how I feel. That's important to me. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, or hit the bell notification to get notifications in the future. Guys, that's gonna be all from me this week, and I'll see you next week.